On university and college campuses in Canada and the U.S., the inmates are truly running the asylum. Pro-life groups, conservative groups, pro-Israel groups, conservative thought in general, all censored, all unwelcome because they compromise the liberal stronghold that is academia. The latest example of this is seen in documents filed in court because of a lawsuit that the Brandon University Students for Life organizers are filing against Brandon University in Manitoba. The students had assembled, they had put together a pro-life group. They wanted to talk about issues like abortion and euthanasia, issues that may be polarizing but are relevant issues to the national discussion. And even though back in 2012, when they initially applied for accreditation as a club, the student union at the school had allowed them to proceed, later on they were denied. They had their membership status revoked, and it was only in January of this year that club members actually realized their status had been revoked when they went to book a room and learned that, well, apparently they weren't a real club on campus. Now, this is the tip of the iceberg. College campuses and university campuses are not bastions of free thought and open debate and discussion. They should be, but they aren't. The Brandon University example is only the latest in what has been a string of these going back decades, and especially heightening in recent years. I wanted to read from the statement that Catherine Dubois, the president of Brandon University Students for Life, filed in court with this lawsuit. She writes, "As members and executives of Students for Life and students of Brandon University, we feel that BUSU is excluding us from the Brandon University community. We desire to associate as a campus club and to express our views peacefully. But the BUSU's obstruction and suppression of our views and our expression, including BUSU's revocation of our student group recognition, have significantly diminished our ability to do so. We feel marginalized, censored, and discriminated against by BUSU simply because we want to host events, share our views, and have discussions about life and death issues such as abortion and physician-assisted suicide." Now, you don't need to agree with the Students for Life group's position on these issues. You don't need to be pro-life. You don't need to think that they're onto something when they talk about these things. You have to, however, if you believe in freedom, accept that these issues need to be debated and discussed in order to have any sort of long-lasting resolution. But here's the thing. The school justified its own decision to revoke club status of this group based on a couple of awful criteria. Number one, some students were made, I kid you not, this is an exact quote, uncomfortable by the presence of a pro-life group on campus. Uncomfortable. Social justice warriors think they have a right to be free from discomfort, and that was only one of the criteria. Intimidated was another word given. Students feel intimidated by having a pro-life group on campus. And according to Ms. Dubois and the lawsuit, which was filed by the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms on behalf of the school said, well, we already have organizations that deal with these issues. The LGBTQ collective and the women's collective already talk about the issues of suicide and of abortion, therefore they don't need another group. Now, I spoke on my radio show a couple of days ago with John Carpe at the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms, and he said that would be the same as saying that, well, because the NDP club on campus talks about politics, there doesn't need to be a liberal club and there doesn't need to be a conservative club. This is not a new phenomenon by any stretch, but we need to pay attention every single time a university student council, which is empowered by school administrators to have a heavy-handed approach to deciding which clubs get to exist and which clubs don't, we need to address them every single time. Now, I have some experience in this. Back in 2010, I was part of a team that tried to plan a cross-country tour for Ann Coulter across Canada, 3 campuses. The International Free Press Society's Canada chapter was the sponsor of this, as well as a number of student groups. Ezra Levant was introducing Anne along the way. The first event went off without a hitch. The second at the University of Ottawa, well, you know what happened. Students had created such an inhospitable environment that they said Ann Coulter threatened them, but she was the one being threatened. She was actually facing threats of violence, so much so that the event could not go on as planned because her safety could not be guaranteed. Now, do you have to agree with what Ann Coulter says? Absolutely not. Do you have to, if you want to have any credibility, accept that she and any other campus speaker or campus group has a right to speak? Absolutely. But that is not what campuses are all about. Political correctness, not debate, not discussion, and certainly not freedom, is the law of the land on campuses. Pro-life groups are targeted. Ryerson University, York University, Brandon University. the University of Alberta, the University of Calgary. The list is endless if we want to go through pro-life groups on campuses in Canada, let alone North America, that have been denied the right to assemble. Groups that have been forced to turn their signs inward because their logos are offensive, their graphics are offensive. Groups that have been forced to pay for space even though student members actually pay for group fees. That was what happened with the Brandon University Students for Life, and that's what's happened with other similar college campuses. I'm pro-life, I make no bones about it, but I would not for a moment stop any group pro-life, pro-choice, or anywhere else on the spectrum from assembling, and neither should you. For the Rebel.media, I'm Andrew Lawton.
Thanks for watching. Click here to never miss a Rebel update. Want even more of the Rebel? Well, click here to become a premium member.